Free defense official Peter Brookes. Peter, good to have you. Leaving aside the markets, apparently not too worried about this. What do you think about what's going on and what, if anything, we can do, coordinated with the South Koreans, others in the region, Japan, et cetera? What do you think?
Well, we're certainly stronger together. There's no question about it. The administration understands the importance of alliances. They are critical to what we're trying to do in the Pacific. South Korea, obviously, right there on the border with North Korea. We've got 30,000 brave Americans standing shoulder to shoulder with the South Koreans. Japan, an ally. If we ever come to some sort of conflict, we'll have to look to Japan for potential support. Right now, Neil, they're not obligated. They're only required to defend themselves. But because we have significant air bases and naval forces there, we'd have to work with them. So it's critical that these alliances are bolstered and reassured, and it seems like the president is doing just that.
You know, I'm wondering about the Chinese and whether we can trust them. We have talked many times, Peter, after an agreement or promise on the part of Chinese officials to say they've frozen all funds to North Korea. I can't imagine they were not given a heads up on this missile launch a couple of days ago. Do you trust them? In other words, we're working through the Chinese as our best shot at easing the prospects of shots here. What do you think?
In general, Neil, I think there's a high level of strategic distrust between the United States and China, and it doesn't just include North Korea. It's also the South China Sea, the economic situation, China's military buildup. There's a lot of things. China wants to replace us as the preeminent power in the Pacific. So we're competitors. Now, we do have some similar interests in North Korea, but our interests do not align exactly. And that's why the Chinese won't do exactly what we would like them to do. They are putting pressure on the regime, but they're not going to crumble the regime, is my view. They don't want the large refugee flows, 22 million North Koreans coming across their border. They do not want U.S. forces and South Korean forces north of the 38th parallel. They do not want a unified pro-U.S. Korea. So our interests aren't exactly the same with the Chinese. They do align to a certain extent, but they're not exactly the same. So plus that level of strategic distrust because of the issues that we certainly have some differences with them on.
You know, I always find it interesting that maybe the markets just sort of go their own merry way and don't think this will amount to much. And you and I have likened it to sort of whistling past the graveyard here. So I don't want to alarm folks there, but I do tend to think that we think this whole situation will go away. Where do you see all of this going?
Well, I guess I like Niels Bohr's quote about that. He says, prediction is hard, especially about the future. But, you know, since you put me on the spot, I think there are significant challenges. And what I really worry about is the freedom of action of North Korea once they have an operational nuclear ICBM program. In other words, what will they do because they feel they can do it? Will there be misperceptions, miscalculations, and mistakes that lead to a crisis and potentially conflict? I think we're moving into an era of relations with North Korea where we're really managing risk. And it's possible to do. We certainly would like them to give up their nuclear weapons. I'm not sure they're willing to do that. They may come to the table, but I'm not sure they're willing to negotiate away that program. But the fact is we need to be strong conventionally. We need to be strong strategically when I'm talking about nuclear weapons there. We need to work on missile defense. We need to continue to isolate and pressure them to limit the size of any future intercontinental ballistic missile program. But I think we're really in a situation of managing risk, and we've been able to do that successfully since 1953 on the Korean Peninsula, and I think it's still possible today.
All right. Oh, amazing stuff. Peter, thank you, as always. Peter Brookes in Washington, D.C.